It is been a whole month we haven't seen each other, but we know in that month a whole lot has changed. If you don't mind hitting record for us, Charlie, so that'd be great.
Yes,
Um,
I was recording.
a whole our climate here in the United States has changed a lot since the last time we had this meeting, right? And so I hope I first want to make sure that everyone knows who I am. I am Rhonda White. I am the Family and Community Engagement Liaison at Quality Trust, and I also hold the role here at within the Family Support Council as the co-chair. I am also, more importantly, a parent of four children, a mother, and my youngest daughter I support as she um, lives her life at this point as a 20-year-old uh, adult. Back to that, we are here for the Family Support Council meeting. But as I was stating, I want to make sure that I feel the need to acknowledge those who may have family members or within their family that are experiencing the loss of jobs or changes in jobs. We are hoping for everyone, including ourselves, because even though we may not be federal workers, we are all directly impacted. And so I'm hoping that all is well for those that are feeling it up close and personal at this point. But our role on today is to make sure that we move forward of advocating for family families and people with disabilities, that we are giving the recommendations to the agencies that we see that fit to be person-centered and family-centered, for our family members and our families as a whole. Um, Also, that's here on today is Craig, and he's also a co-chair of the Family Support Council, and I'm sure you'll be hearing a little bit more from him later on. It's one of his tasks as I'm doing this task, but he is present. Adrian will not be present on today, and she is our vice chair, or vice chair for the Family Support Council. We are being supported today by Charlisa today instead of Catherine, so we're thankful for her filling Catherine's shoes today to support us with technology and with the meeting via Zoom. So thank you for stepping in today. We appreciate it. I wanted to make sure that I think there is a few individuals who are attending today that may be new, or maybe you're not new to the Family Support Council, but we do want to welcome you into this meeting. It is a meeting that's open to the public um, to attend, and there's no limitations to that. But as those of us who are here are council members, which is myself, Craig, Azeb, and Shawnee, and Taiki. We, those who are present right now, are all council members, and with that role, we are able to vote concerning different um, recommendations and things about how this council is governed, as well as um, finalizing recommendations. But when I say that, we are taking all of the input that is given to us from those that are not council members or public members, public DC residents, because we do want to hear from you all so that we can take the moment to consider your needs and the issues you may be experiencing to incorporate into the recommendations that we give to the agencies. And I believe it's Martina, and I'm not sure who the other person is, but please feel free to say hello to us if you desire. We're very glad that you were able to make it. Um, is that Catherine, maybe?
Yes. Hi, I'm Catherine Del Pino, and I have a 33-year-old son who's supported by DDS for residential and other services. For my sins, I'm a professor of political science. I can tell you it's driving me even more nuts than most people, and wanted to come on board, do anything that can be helpful. You know, if you want somebody to come with you to make presentations or do talking points or something like that. But I am terrified of what's ahead of us, to put it mildly.
Yeah. Then that's what I was sharing about. The climate is changing and moment by moment at this point. So there's a lot to pay attention to and be cautious of as we live in the United States of America. Martina, thank you.
Yeah. Hi. Um, so I'm the legislative and policy analyst for DDS, and I'm here today because Catherine was not able to attend and asked me to just sit in, just in case there were any questions or anything that I could help with.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to be a part of the meeting to give some support. So we appreciate that. And of course, Catherine, we welcome all support and assistance in the council. So we're glad that you have made it. Is this your first time, Catherine?
Yes, it is. And I don't know how to give you my contact information if you already have it, or I did send an email in asking to be put on the list, but who knows, you know, where that is.
Yeah, if you don't mind putting it in the chat, and you can, you know, if you can send it, you don't want it to send to everyone, you're welcome to send it directly to me, whatever your preference is, but we definitely would love to have your contact information.
I'll just type it right here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Catherine. And then as we have welcomed those who have joined us today, I did want to ask if anyone, before we moved any further, I don't think we have any agency representation just yet in this meeting. But I also wanted to make sure as we think about updates, changing the flow of the agenda just a little bit, because the presence of some members that may have to go in and out of the meeting. But was there any specific updates of any kind that Azeb or Shani at this point, that I think they're the only members on right now? Craig may have someone, I give him the floor that he can share in his transition into his role for today. But was there any updates or things that you wanted to share with the council on today, Azeb, Shani, or Tyke, excuse me? Okay, one of the things Tyke may have not remembered from a few minutes ago, but although it's not something that everyone is required to do, but she was giving us a reminder for those who want to participate of not purchasing on tomorrow from, I guess, the big box stores. I don't know if you all are hearing about this boycott in the sense of if you so choose, you know, to do so. Tyke, did you want to give some more background to that, or is?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I saw online February 28th, they're having a boycott against Walmart, Target, online shopping, Amazon. If you have to get gas, get it today. And it's just going to be tomorrow. So, you know, I'm not going all into politics, but I just think everybody should do it. So no McDonald's. So if you want your McDonald's, get it today. Thank you. And I love y'all.
Okay. As I stated before, obviously, as you all have a choice to do whatever you desire to do, but Tyke had shared that with us before we started the meeting, and wanted to make sure we are aware of that. So any other updates, Azeb, Shani, and looks like Chioma has joined us, who is another council member. Is there any updates about anything that you've seen that would be of benefit to the community we serve? Any other changes that maybe we're not aware of? There's a lot being said, and I think the other part of it is you hear so much in many platforms, but trying to see where the truth really lies about what is really going on, right? And I think it's still very unclear for those who are being directly affected, of where they need to go, do they really still have a job? I mean, all of those things. So if anyone does have any information that would be helpful to the council and for those who are participating today that have been able to find where there's some resources that we can kind of rely on as we go through this process. I should say this season of our lives, all right? Anything would be helpful. And looks like Daisy has joined us as well. So I have opened the floor up to the council members last call for any council members that may have any updates. I do have a few community type of updates, and I'll give you all a few minutes while I'm talking about one of them. The DD Council, the Developmental Disabilities Council and Quality Trust, with the lead of the DD Council, is doing has started a testimony writing workshop. There were 2 sessions on yesterday. I think the next one, this is where I rely on. I think it's March, and I keep forgetting I cannot show my screen. So I apologize. So give me a minute as I try to find that date and put that information in the chat. When Craig is up, I will put that information in the chat when I can focus a little better. But there is another opportunity to be able to get some support in writing your testimony. And I apologize, it's not coming right up for me, the date, but I'll get it to you. Also, next month is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and probably in the very, very near future, there'll be some information that will be coming out via email of several of the agencies and organizations that give events of some kind, meetings, trainings during next month, and opportunities for the celebration or the recognition, I should say, of developmental disabilities. I think there is one that I know that is coming up that is for remembering the leadership and the life and legacy of Judy Heumann. And that will be on March 4th, which is Tuesday, from 4 to 6. And like I said, when I can navigate a little better, I'll put that in the chat as well. But usually there is a schedule that kind of comes out to let everyone know what are all the different things that'll be happening next month, being March, around the Awareness Month of Developmental Disabilities. All right. I think for me, I have completed the task at this point of the meeting. So I am going to hand it over to Craig, co-chair.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. And it's good to be here today, everybody. So I was going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the police area and recommendations that we're putting together in that area. So as you may all remember, we've been engaged with the police department for over a year now, about a year. We went to the communication center. We've reached out to them with some ideas. We even sent them a report by the Developmental Disabilities Council and asked them to see if they were going to do any follow-up in that area. We've had some engagement with the chief of police, who's indicated an interest in doing 2 things. One, creating a neurodiversity policy for the police department, and 2, updating their mental health policy in terms of interaction with subjects, witnesses, bystanders who have mental health disabilities, who may be experiencing a mental health crisis, making sure not to criminalize that to the extent possible. And you know, a lot of this stuff I know is happening, but our goal is to try to get the police department to acknowledge that and do something about it, and hopefully improve their policies and their training so that those sort of negative or harmful or problematic interactions with neurodivergent and neurodivergent individuals or people who have mental health disabilities, that those are reduced, you know, and hopefully ended at some point. So, you know, that's our goal. I want you to know I did follow up with Captain Terry. We were told by the police department that they wanted to start with us looking at their training programs, and then they would move toward their policies. So they want to start with training. So we accepted that. We said, okay, we'll start wherever you want. So Captain Terry wants to do an initial meeting next week. And then at that point, we're hopefully going to have Captain Terry come before this committee and talk a little bit about their training programs and get feedback from this group. So we'll do a organizational meeting and then hopefully have Captain Terry come. Then we're going to do the same thing with the name of the individual, pardon me, is Commander Hong, who is also the director of the Metropolitan Police Academy. Commander Hong is going to help facilitate us being able to get involved with their policies and practices that they teach at the academy in addition to the training. So this is going to be the whole year. We're going to be engaging with the police department. So the last thing is that we wanted to talk about was starting to put together some understanding that we haven't had all of these interactions yet. And only some of us were able to go to the communications department and see how they do dispatch, and also learn a little bit about how they hire dispatchers. Because we were looking at two things there. One, you know, we wanted to learn about Smart 911, and when they dispatch, are they dispatching fire or police in a way that's supportive of people with disabilities, where there's an emergency and they know that someone with a disability is there? And if it simply involves something that maybe should be done by fire rescue or even someone in social services and isn't really a police issue, are they sending the police, or are they dispatching fire rescue or medical personnel or a counselor or someone that can help the family or the individual in this situation? So we learned a little bit about that, and it does seem like they do what we want to some extent, but we're definitely going to have recommendations there to improve that. But the second part that we wanted to talk to them about was, and they actually indicated this to us, that, you know, these dispatcher positions are very detailed oriented, and, you know, it is a possible area of work for people who are neurodivergent who might be able to do it extremely well. Some people are neurodivergent. Again, I don't want to overgeneralize, but there are a lot of people who are neurodivergent who are very good at details and sticking to a task and getting something done even under pressure. And you know, so making these sort of jobs available. And we talked a little bit about the hiring programs in DC and how there are hiring programs, specialized hiring programs that give a preference, for example, if you went to high school in DC, but there isn't really one for people with disabilities. So similar to Schedule A with the federal government. So they don't have one at the police department. So we wanted to talk to them. That expanded sort of to an idea, well, and maybe we would start with the police department, but like an autism at work or neurodiversity at work program. Neurodiversity, so it's broader than autism. Applies to ADHD as well, dyslexia, dyspraxia, PTSD, other disabilities or conditions that are under the neurodiversity umbrella. And they were very open to this, although it's gonna take some time to put something like that together. But it seems to me that DDS would be the appropriate department at the in DC to set up an autism at work or neurodiversity at work or disability hiring program for the whole city. So that's something that we really want to press. So that's my general update. We want to hear feedback, and then I wanted to say one more thing about some of the executive orders and things like that that have been coming out. I wanted to address in particular Medicaid and accessibility and accommodations, because I did get some. I know many of you are very concerned right now, but I did get some positive feedback on the Rehabilitation Act and ADA and the defense of those by the Department of Justice. So I do want to talk about that in a second. I just did a talk for Disability in DC Metro where I interacted with the federal government. I used to serve in the federal government. I was the head of a federal agency that enforced part of the Rehabilitation Act, Section 503. And so I wanted to learn about that. So I'll talk about that in a second, but before I do, I don't want to change the subject from the main topic, which is the police department. So does anyone have any feedback on what I've told you? Any recommendations you want us to explore? Anything that you want us, other than meeting with training and policy, are there other parts of the police department you want us to meet with? The goal is ultimately that the chief of police will come and speak to us. I mean, we're trying to have that happen within the next year. This year, that's our goal for this subcommittee for 2025, in addition to these recommendations and having these meetings, is to actually have the police chief come and speak with us. So with that, I'll turn it back to Rhonda. And I see Shani wants to.
Shani has.
Just one.
So Shani, what are your thoughts? And then I see Azeb also does.
Hey, hi everyone. I think what you mentioned is great. That's great progress. I would like to see some type of collaboration to include Metro Police.
Okay.
Okay, so that we don't have to do two separate sessions, so that we don't have to, repeat the same information. I think that whatever can come out of as far as the policy change with MPD, I'm wondering if Metro, because they have their own police department, even though they do collaborate with MPD sometimes, but I really think that a collaboration would work, because now we're bringing in another force of bodies or agency who literally does the same thing. They just do it in a different environment.
Course, we would we would want to involve all the city's police departments.
Okay.
We are dealing right now with MPD and the chief, which I had thought was Metropolitan Police Department, but now that you're telling me it's not,
No,
we'll
there
make
are.
sure
I'm
to.
sorry, I wasn't clear. So they are Metropolitan Police Department. I'm talking about the Metro Police. So the police that are actually
Oh,
assigned
the
and they
Metro
work
Rail,
for.
the Metro Rail.
Right.
I'm sorry,
Metro Rail, Metro,
we have
right.
not involved
Those,
them.
that's
Okay,
a separate entity.
I got it.
But I want to
Okay.
see if we can bring them in, because there are a lot of incidents that happen on the Metro Rail
Good point.
involving individuals with special needs. And I want to just refresh you guys' memory. I believe it was last year where an individual with Down syndrome left his group home in Maryland, hopped on a bus. He was missing for 2 days, and then he was found in the Metro station in a bathroom.
I remember that. Okay, you're
Okay.
absolutely right. We definitely should involve Metro Police, and we will. So after
Okay,
this
great.
meeting, I will reach out to Chief Anzalo and try to do the same thing, and then we'll try to merge those two
Yeah.
conversations.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, Shani, because the other part of that, and this is probably maybe in our recommendation piece, or us to discuss a little further from that incident that happened in Maryland. There was I forget the color, there was some type of alert now that was set up that the family fought for, you know what I'm saying? When a person is missing.
Purple alert, purple.
What is missing? I'm sorry, say again.
It's a purple. The color is purple.
Remember if it was purple. I kept thinking it was purple, but I believe it. Thank you, Azeb. It is purple. So we need to think about that. You know what I'm saying? What's being done? Because that's Maryland, if I understand correctly,
Yeah.
right? So what would happen? What would we want set up for DC to alert when we have a family member or a person, a DC resident that is with a disability, and how alerting the community of that person missing?
Can I add one more thing? Just to support what Rhonda is saying, I wonder if there's a small chance that we can invite, whether it's CMS or Medicaid, because they now cover devices. They cover GPS devices. So I think with that knowledge and the police having that knowledge as well, so that there can be some type of preventive measures, and or if it happens to a family and they don't have it, when the police arrive or when the family gets involved with the police, they can say, hey, reach out to your insurance company. Because as we all know that these agencies do not communicate with each other. Okay. And there's really nothing in place for families other than, lived experience or networking with other families for preventive measures.
Mhm,
Absolutely right. So definitely we'll include that too.
mhm.
So those are two excellent recommendations. Anything else from anyone?
And just in case it's not in there, but since this is what this is for, right? The key point was the young man was found in the bathroom in the Metro. So where's cameras? Are there working cameras at Metro?
There were, I think the issue is who's watching the cameras, because they end up showing the cameras and he literally just piggybacked off someone else walking in. Um, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I've tried to follow up on the story. I can't find anything.
Wow. Wow.
And that's just one of the incidents that, really hit my heart in the last probably 2 years. There's been, I want to say, at least two other incidents, and those two resulted in the death of those individuals. So, we're not, the families are not getting the support they need. And then even aftercare, what does aftercare look like for a family that experiences these type of traumas? I'm still trying to figure that out because it happens to my family, but I have a different type of support system, as well as I kind of think outside the box. So I'm getting the support I need, and I'm putting additional measures in place. But for this to continuously happen, that means that other families don't have access to these resources. And honestly, it's just going to continue to happen.
But you're right, Shani, from the sense of writing the recommendation, Craig, is that it does need to include what does that process look like, how the cameras are managed, right? They, what is the role of that person? You know what I'm saying? What do you have them looking for? You know what I'm saying? Because obviously cameras could, catch somebody what is the process, right? If you're monitoring the cameras, are they working? Who's that person's role? What are they looking for? What is it that we could say they could look for, right? You know what I'm saying? Outside of what we would consider the obvious, but some may not understand. You know what I'm saying? If someone, I'm just gonna make up, let's say if it's someone that keeps pacing, right? You know what I'm saying? If someone, I know people that I support, they pace, right? Well, will a police officer really know? Oh, maybe that's something I should see if they need help, right? You know what I'm saying? But those are things that we would need to help to alert them of types of behavior that they might need to document as part of training or whatever that may be as they are doing their jobs. So obviously.
So
Yeah.
so when we I'm sorry, please go.
Just to add on this, like Maryland, specifically Montgomery County police officers, there's a department for it, and they have a toolkit, and they do workshops. And parents of children with disabilities, they go there and take the toolkit. The toolkit is when the people go out to have some badge or a T-shirt, also a sticker that goes on the car. Those are toolkits that the police station gives out to families for free. So if DC can do similar, and also at the door, like at the front door, there it's a clear sticker on the window or the front door. Families can post that and in their cars.
Absolutely, I'll include that too. So with
Yeah.
Metro, we're going to ask them to do more training. We're going to ask them to do the same things. Training. We want to take a look at their policies, interaction with neurodivergent populations, mental health, disability populations, and then we're gonna, obviously with the point that was just raised, training would be a big deal. We'll make sure to mention the cameras and that they're working. That they have a policy where they're checking them, but also that they know what to look for and that they flag something and make sure they get a wellness check or something where needed. So, and that's all over the next few weeks. So think about, you can email me the recommendations too. Email Rhonda, me, and Catherine, and we'll put them all together, and eventually we'll have a document that will,
Yeah.
adopt probably a resolution of some sort to the police department, hopefully commending them for working with us. We'll see, or recommending what they should do. And then did I see another hand?
I think it was Shawnee.
You did, but I'll go ahead and just send it via email. That's fine.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, anyone, please email
Yeah, I
any
mean,
feedback you have.
you're welcome to share it because it might trigger, when one person says something, it brings something else to.
Okay, I'll go ahead. So
Yeah,
Metro
Sure.
also offers a travel training program.
you took a
Okay.
look at it,
I
'cause
attempted to access this about 7 or 8 years and I was unsuccessful. I wonder if that travel training program can also include this portion of a policy change. So the travel training program is supposed to be for individuals any age of any disability or ability to get trained on how to operate the cards, safety precautions, the trains, and things of that nature. I would like to see some sort of safety guide that could be provided during that training where individuals are taught to either go to the booth or if there are emergency buttons within the actual train stations. Um, and again, I think with Metro and their employees, they're an agency that don't have high turnover. So a lot of times the booth staff actually see, the same people over and over again. So even if there can be an opportunity for individuals to meet, a booth person or a station manager, things like that, especially when that individual visits or ride through that particular station all of the time, if that makes sense.
Yes, I'm smiling because I was just gonna bring up that travel training. So, issue, because what I found is that there are groups within our school system that are, programs, organization that do travel training within the program, but it's not something that's throughout Metro. You see what I'm saying? They may do the travel training within a group. I think School Talk might do within the group of students that are maybe applying for a job or doing summer youth employment. You know what I'm saying? They may get travel training within that program, but it's not something that's all of Metro, right? That they should have some type of travel training and the safety piece. The thing I thought of was the button, because I was thinking about the young man in Maryland, right? That I was thinking if there was something that he could have, but I don't know his circumstance either, because I don't know if obviously he was trying to go somewhere, right? So I don't know if he necessarily right away thought he was unsafe, maybe until later. You catch where I'm going, that he would even want to push the button. I don't know what his motive was. You catch where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that I was thinking, a button as well, something that we can train and show our loved ones or the community, those with disabilities, or any person for that fact. I'll just think of me as a woman. You know what I'm saying? If I'm being attacked or anything, where is the button or something? You know what I'm saying? That if I was on the train, the gentleman that got his coat taken off his body, I was thinking, even in that situation, I thought, oh, we're in the cab there. You know what I'm saying? Is there a button or something? Where was the camera? That's where it brought up for me, the camera. The incident was done by somebody's phone. I don't know if they are gonna reveal that to the community, but was there a camera in the Metro train right there that would have seen that theft go on? So if that's what triggered me thinking about our community, button, the cameras, where are those, and how, if they exist, and who's monitoring, and looking after those things? Are they just looked at the end of the day? Or is there someone always looking, you know what I'm saying, at what's happening on the train, which is two different things, right? You can have one up, but if it's only looked at, you know, at the end of the day or 2 days later, what effectiveness is that compared to someone being there looking at those cameras? So thanks, Shani.
Quick follow-up. Metro used, when I was trying to access it, WMATA actually had their own individual travel training program,
Yeah.
but no one responded, and I tried for 5 months. So they used to. I don't know if they still do it. They used to have a volunteer program. I used to volunteer as well. I believe that one is still in existence, and I think that would be a good opportunity as well for individuals with disabilities, either with their aides or their caregivers or their behavior team, to volunteer, because a lot can be taught in those environments.
Yes, for all parties involved, right? You know what I'm saying, on both sides. Even if it is the volunteer person, right? They can learn, you know, from that experience, even though they may be helping someone else, right? But yeah, good points.
Okay. So I think I have the feedback, so I'll seek to implement that. The main goal right now is to get Metro involved, and then also to begin the first step with MPD in terms of the reviewing the training and getting. So we're at the next meeting. We'll definitely be talking about the training, and hopefully we'll get the captain to come and speak with us and go over the training for us. So the other thing I wanted to mention was, you know, I've been doing a lot of presentations to disability related groups. I serve on the board of Disability Belongs, and I'm on the board of Disability in DC Metro, the advisory board for them. And you know, there's been an interest in, well, what is happening with the Rehabilitation Act and the ADA in the new administration, particularly because there was a lawsuit related. The lawsuit doesn't directly relate to 504 or 503 in general. It relates specifically to some regulations from the Department of Education, which you may have all heard about, but related to protecting transgender students related to gender dysphoria, which is a recognized disability. And the Trump administration, through one of the executive orders on this is the administration's wording, but the one on gender identity, gender ideology, the one that declares that there's two genders, that one includes language that basically tells the administration to no longer, so like the EEOC and Department of Labor, they're supposed to limit. So right now under employment law, gender identity is a protected class under a case called Bostock that the Supreme Court issued several years ago. One of the most conservative justices wrote the decision, Justice Gorsuch, and it got a lot of support. So, you know, transgender employees are protected from discrimination in the workplace. And you know, that's the law, so that, you know, that won't change. But the issue is that because of some of the controversy related to the administration's view versus the prior administration's view on gender identity, it's led to like 15 Republican attorney generals filing a lawsuit to try to block all of these regulations related to gender dysphoria as a disability, and which has led the Republican attorney generals to include in the lawsuit that they wanted the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which is the one that says if you accept federal funds, you can't discriminate based on disability, and you have to do essentially affirmative action based on disability, and you have to, you know, there's all these regulations protecting people with disabilities, and also, of course, the Section 504 plans that schools do, which is how it comes into education again. They're saying that 504 is unconstitutional, which caused a lot of disruption in the disability community because there's no real reason why 504 would be unconstitutional. It's well accepted that if you accept federal funds, the federal government can impose an obligation on you. So, and in fact, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which is what is being used by the Trump administration related to universities and high schools related to combating anti-Semitism. That whole thing that you probably all saw in the news when they had all the university professors come before Congress, that's all based on the same thing. So the Trump administration, the question was, are they going to defend the Rehabilitation Act, or are they going to agree with the Republican attorney generals? I just want you to know that I was involved with a number of attorneys, including Republicans and Democrats, on two fronts that, the administration has told us that they are going to defend the Rehabilitation Act, that they don't agree with the Republican attorney generals. So I just wanted you to know that. And then the Republican attorney generals told a good friend of mine who's in the Biden administration, was very high up in the Justice Department on disability issues, has told her and others advocating to them that they're going to amend their complaint to no longer challenge the constitutionality of the Rehabilitation Act. But the point is, and a number of them are backing away from that. So I don't, that would be an existential threat, obviously, to the disability community. The Section 503, 504, 501, 508, those components of the Rehabilitation Act being found unconstitutional. So, and I don't think a court would find them unconstitutional, by the way, either. The Supreme Court has upheld or positively referenced the Rehabilitation Act hundreds of times. Well, maybe not them hundreds. The federal courts hundreds of times. The Supreme Court a number of times. So I don't see that as a real threat. However, for people that have never heard that before, or are not lawyers, if you read this in the paper, it is very concerning, and it could be even existential, the concern, because if you have a child on a 504 plan, that's very discouraging. I also reached out to the Department of Education because I'm trying to remember, I've been working on this review of the DC public schools related to special education, and this committee participated in that, and Rhonda, we got comments that we submitted, and anyway, that report was issued a few months ago, and the Department of Education is interested in it. But they did tell me in that discussion that they strongly support the Rehabilitation Act. This was pretty high up in the education department, and that they will defend it. So I just want you all to know that. I know that you may be skeptical of the Trump administration, but I want you to know that that's the information I've received. And then I was able, through me and some others, the Office of Personnel Management issued a memo after all of these DEI executive orders. They issued a memo which says that accommodations and accessibility are to be continued in the federal government, sort of exempting that. And I'm not saying that that's going to be satisfactory to everyone. I know a lot of you support DEI, but as to disability, which is really our issue on this committee, making sure that that's protected, that was accepted. So that's been pulled out of the DEI EOs, at least for the federal government. So I just wanted to report that. And, if you have any feedback, please let me know. Whenever I have an opportunity to try to advocate, I do. And I'm very good friends with the Deputy Secretary of Labor, who just had his confirmation hearing today. That's why I'm dressed up, and I went to support him. And Lori Chavez DeRemer, who's the Secretary of Labor nominee, I've met with her, and she's considered to be a little more moderate. She's a Republican. She's considered to be more moderate, and she was in favor of. She was actually recommended by the Teamsters for this job, and President Trump, remember, had gotten all the support from union members and from the Teamsters, so that was part of the deal. Usually, people don't say if it's a deal, but President Trump did say it was a deal. So anyhow, she's very pro-disability, and her daughter is a special education teacher, and so I think she'll be a very good appointment for us. So I just wanted to let you, and I know Keith Sonderling is a dear friend, and he's been very supportive of people with disabilities. So I'm hopeful that we'll see support there. So anyway, I just wanted to provide that information. I see Catherine and Rhonda sees her too. So please, Catherine.
Catherine's having a seizure at this point. Can I be the group pessimist? First, and Craig, I also am a veteran from the federal government too. I was a Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, so I have a little bit of knowledge about the way things work. We have many existential threats to look at here. The first is that this administration does not know what it's doing and where it's going. In the meantime, they're going to have smash and grab for as much as they can up front to please their base. And yes, things are going to get caught up in the courts, et cetera, but in the meantime, they're going to continue to do what they want to do. And we don't even know how they're going to handle some court decisions that go against them. We are going to be looped into the DEI, which of course are fighting words for anybody in the MAGA base. And although, you know, yes, it is distinct from a lot of things, but I can tell you they're going to start in on things like work requirements and why this disabled person can't have a paying job, et cetera, et cetera. Trump wants to directly rule the District of Columbia. That itself could be an existential threat, you know, his little laboratory for how he's going to turn.
Council.
Huh?
It would be. You mean to the DC Council and our council? Yes, it would be.
He wants to take over. He doesn't know. I mean, he also wants to take over the world, as you can see. But you know, so all of these things. I mean, even if in the end reason prevails, a lot of damage can be done. It can be very hard to put this Humpty Dumpty back together again. I think we need at every turn to start building a case from the ground up for why this is a universal issue, why this cannot, this not exactly a sacred cow, but and I don't for 1 minute believe House Speaker Johnson that they're not going to whack Medicaid. You know, clearly, I mean, $800 billion. And once you start in, they're going to look for obvious things that they can cut. So I think we have many existential threats.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, yes, I think they're going to probably do cuts to Medicaid at some point, but we need to make sure to advocate effectively that to the best we can, that they should exempt people with intellectual and developmental disabilities from having a work requirement, for example, because that's probably where they're going to cut Medicaid is by having a work requirement and giving you a certain time. But we need to make sure that that doesn't apply to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities because they'll lose their services, and a number of them, like my daughter, would have a hard time working.
My son would
be
be
in their best interest.
Unable to do that because of the way his autism affects having people tell him he's doing something wrong. But yes, but my point is that it's an uphill battle. It's going to be more of an uphill battle than we think it is going to be. That we can no longer just expect, as we could have 2 months ago, if you just make these arguments, they will be accepted. Whoa.
The one thing I do want to add to what you're saying, Catherine, is it's not just our loved ones, but us as caregivers.
Yes.
Guess what? We may not have a disability, or maybe we do, right? But we have to make sure our children are supported and cared for, especially depending on where you are in the support of your child. If it's someone that has, you know, multiple disabilities and needs, you know what I'm saying, that a caregiver is needed at home. In the argument of, hey, them being at a nursing home, which is what they would like to do, you know what I'm saying, to put them in a nursing home, and not to say that that might not be a place for some, but for most, it would be better addressed and supported at home. And what does that look like for a caregiver being home and thinking they need to go out and work a 40, 60-hour job and also care for a loved one? So there's a whole dynamic there that has to be thought of when we think of our community.
And a
Excuse
lot
me,
of
can I say something? I'm sorry. This is Daisy. In line with what you all are talking about, when I went to college, it was for pre-law and government affairs. Thing is, a lot of Americans don't realize whatever the government does or tries to change now doesn't really go in effect, totally in effect, until that first administration is out. And then all of a sudden, the next administration that comes in is going to look inept. Trump, excuse me, I didn't want to use his name, but if you all recall the election of 2014, no, excuse me, 16. The point is, we went into the 20th century with a lot of hope, and it took fights and all of that, but America as a whole got way better. And then 2016 happened. And that president that came in after that election wanted to say, I did this that the previous administration had actually done. The previous administration left him a solid government. And this person just wanted to take claim for all of it, counting on the American public to have a short-term memory. And unfortunately, we've gotten lazy enough to have that short-term memory. Now, that being said, we're all talking
because we're concerned. But if nothing doesn't happen immediately to affect the general public, they're not going to believe it so much. And when the 4 years are over, it's going to be problem city all over the country and the world. We're already seeing it. But because it doesn't affect anybody in the individual right now, they're going to get desensitized to all they're hearing. And the thing is, even with disabilities, I think that not just the government, but these employees that are getting disenfranchised in this District of Columbia, I think that there needs to be more of a education push, whether it's over commercials or what have you. But yeah, they're making changes now, but they're not really going to be in effect until the next administration comes in. And then it's going to make the next administration look inept. So please, I don't know how we educate people that are being affected right now, because it's not affecting everybody, like out in rural America. These changes they're doing here, what he's doing here now, they're going to do a lot worse, but we're not going to be ready for it because the changes they're talking about aren't really going to happen totally until 4 years from now. The actual effects of it. Nobody's thinking in those terms now because we've been so desensitized to it. Now, back when I was robust, back when I was in college, we talked about this stuff all the time. What can happen if a democracy goes astray? And I'm seeing it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I think we also need to keep that in the conversation where, okay, yes, they're making changes. And Trump is just firing people now. So the courts hopefully will stop it. But some of the stuff is going to get so derailed, it's going to be hard to get it back on the track within the next 30 years. So that's just, if we just think about calming people down, yeah, they're making changes now, and some things are getting stopped, but yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Daisy. We appreciate your comment. Tyke and then Azeb.
Yeah, so I spoke to the lady from HUD yesterday, and she gave me a 1-800 number for a housing counselor. If anybody's interested in it, I don't know how to put it in the chat, but I can give you the number. It's 1-800-569-4287. And if you live in Maryland, it's 301-277-8239. And if you don't live in the country, it's 1-877-428-8844. And they have Section 8 apartments because Section 8 thing is closed. Thank you.
Okay, Azeb, if you could, can you send that to me via email? It looks like somebody got some of it. That's great. So it looks like we got the DC one. Thank you, Charlita, is the first number. And then the Maryland number is the 301. And then you had a third number I thought you stated. Was that correct?
Yes, 1-877-428-8844.
Could you say it again, hon?
Sure, honey. 1-877-428-8844.
Okay, it looks like, thank you, Charlisa. Thank you, Tyke. And this is, if someone's looking, what are these numbers? What resource are
If
they?
you're looking for a housing counselor or for housing.
Okay. Housing
The
counselor.
1-800 number just helps you find a counselor, and the 301 number, I think that's the same thing. And the 877, if you don't live here, and so you can also call 311.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tyke. I believe it was Azeb. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like mine is kind of it's what we're doing, but how can we revamp what the Family Support Council can do? Like what kind of proactive steps we can take to address maybe the budget cut. As Craig said, it might not be scary right now for the disability community, but when it comes to employment programs, it might affect. And also the SSI, it might affect if it moves forward. So how can I advocate for funding protection together? Maybe inviting during our next meeting, collaborate with disability organizations and involving more people and testimonies, and maybe, I don't know, contacting lawmakers, but as family support council members, what can we do?
Okay, I got a suggestion. Can we all champion home rule for the district? The country's looking at what's happening to the District of Columbia because Mr. Trump wants to take it back under his purview. If every citizen with disabilities or not championed home rule right now, we see employees coming out the doors to protest. But if we're out there with them, uniting with them, I just think if there's a protest by employees anywhere about losing home rule, if we give enough of ourselves to that process or to that opinion to keep the District of Columbia what the founding fathers meant it to be, I think there might be a little bit of a reminder going to the Supreme Court at some time to, hey, there's a constitution, y'all are not looking at it and you're making decisions based on getting your jobs. But I really think everybody in the district needs to, including all citizens, wherever they came from, if they're district residents now, home rule is something we all need to really get behind, and I mean diligently behind it, so that some of this stuff, yeah, it's getting national press everywhere else, but get our citizens awake and aware to what's going on and get more people out of the door, even if it doesn't affect them directly, other than home rule changing their circumstances. So I will shut up now. I know I go off on a tangent, but thank you very much.
So it's good to hear your views. And I do think we have to keep, I mean, my suggestion would be to keep focused on disability and trying to make sure that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have a voice, and that we're continuing to fight for that group. There is traditionally, disability and IDD have been bipartisan focuses. Some of the other areas in the civil rights areas have not. It's just a fact. I mean, I'm a civil rights attorney. I don't agree with everything that every administration does, but typically there's been support for disability. In fact, all the three main disability laws all came forward in Republican administrations. So, you know, the Rehabilitation Act, ADA, ADAA. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not just saying there's a lot of members of Congress that support disability. There's a lot of people in the administration who support disability. I mean, I was in the first Trump administration. I was the head of OFCCP. I support disability, you know, strongly. That was the hallmark of my entire time there, was focused on disability. The goal is hopefully more people will get into the administration who have that view. But I just think we have to be strategic in continuing to, you know, identifying in this committee areas where we're seeing a threat to that group. So one for us would be Medicaid, definitely, and then SSI, you know, and we should be advocating not only to the DC Council, but to the Congress too, I would argue,
Yep.
you know, because particularly if they're going to be asserting more authority over our locality. And I'm a strong supporter of home rule. I want to be clear. I was a local government attorney, a city attorney for many years, but, you know, as a factual matter, we're probably not going to become a state until a Republican can get elected here, you know, because Republicans aren't going to allow 2 Senate seats to go to the Democrats. So, and that may take many years, you know, and you know, we're going through a realignment of parties, but the Republican Party is probably not going to have a senator here anytime soon. So, you know, that's just a fact, but we should still fight for disability rights.
Can I have a two-fingered on that? I think also we need to, when we make presentations, we need to talk about the short-term consequences of some of the things that might happen or being advocated. And I'm originally from California, and I grew up, I remember when Reagan was governor of California, and he thought it was a great idea to take people with mental issues out of the institutions. That was fine, except that he had no social safety nets afterwards. And most of them ended up on the streets. And, you know, we need to be very real about what will happen if these things get smashed, you know. So where if Medicaid and residential services and the Medicaid waiver goes away, do you want people with intellectual disabilities to be added to the homeless population? Because they will be. You know?
Right.
I mean, all of these things need to be very concrete. and show them the consequences of their actions, because that's not the way this administration is working now, and so somebody needs to do that mental homework for them and show how it could affect some of their other goals. That's.
So how can we show that? Why I'm saying is this, like Maryland, there was a huge disability budget cut, let's say $200 million. And we went out and I took my people who don't speak the English with interpreters there to speak in the delegate's office. And it took like few days and now it's turned over. 2025, we don't have to worry. Then we're gonna hit for the 2026 again, this kind of mobilization. So what we did was bringing people together and educate people and go out. So can we do that here in DC? That's why I'm saying, like, can the Family Support Council do that? Like empowering self-advocates and collaborating with disability organizations, or our job is limited to?
My own view is that we need to continue to advocate to DDS regarding Medicaid renewals, and then and we need to find if there's an issue where DDS is, because of Medicaid cuts, for example, is going to take a different position. They need to engage with us in advance. I mean, that's what we want to really, right now we need to protect Medicaid for district residents, I think, that have IDD, that are intellectually and developmentally disabled. I think that has to be our top priority, more than the police, at this moment. That would be devastating for people to lose.
Totally agree with you, Greg. Totally.
Yeah.
And to your point, Azeb, gathering the families together and people with self-advocates, or people with disabilities to gather to go down and advocate in that fashion. It's just as we're sitting here today, right? That we're trying to get even the community to come together for these meetings to talk about these issues. And so the capacity of doing that, to get people to actually go to the buildings, Azeb, and I hear you loud and clear, and I agree with you. But it will take the due diligence of all to get everyone to want to come out of their homes, out of their spaces, to advocate in a physical, direct way. And so I don't know in the instance of what you're referring to with Maryland, the way in which they went about for that to occur, and getting those agencies, those programs, organizations, groups to come out in that way. I hear you. I agree. But how that was here in DC.
Like here, as like the 6 of us or the 7 of us, to pull out the people might be hard. But if we connect with individual organizations who are working on disability, then under those organizations, you will find people who they are surveying. So that's why I say collaboration of disability organizations, maybe, to access the people. Like our meetings will be disseminated through those organizations so that people can hear about what we do here.
From the for saying that the Family Support Council is going to is wanting to put some type of effort like this together, and can you encourage those to participate and come out? Yes. I think that is a way, but it would involve,
yes, work
to do that, right? Because it would take the structuring of a person to say, then I'm responsible for directly addressing this particular one, at this particular place. And yes, even if it was that we sent emails far and wide to do that, but it still would entail that we were showing the leadership to do that, right? To get out into those offices and working collaborating within ourselves, you know what I'm saying, to make that
Yeah.
happen.
What we did in Maryland was we invited them all.
Mhm.
We started 3 or 4 organizations together. Now we are 35.
Mhm.
So, like, if we see it as FMS, FMC, those 5 of us are still there, and the 35 joined us. And through those organizations, we were able to meet people, to invite people, and to get testimonies from people. Yeah. So, working with those organizations can help access to people.
I'll say with the DD Council and other, I guess I feel like if we were moving in that direction, we'd have to look at maybe the Office of Disability Rights, DD Council. I mean, I'm thinking of maybe those places, you know what I'm saying, to start with, not to say that we don't touch every agency and let everyone know that this is what our goal is, but we really would have to, we're at 211 now, but we'd really have to have some meetings, you know what I'm saying, as a council, get that
Mhm.
structure. Because it's not as easy as, send an email out. We still would have to figure out
Exactly.
what we're saying, you know what I'm saying? And what are we saying that this day we're going to go do this? So and where I'm going is that I do think there needs to be some grander, you know what I'm saying, approach to advocacy, you know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
is as Craig said, the Medicaid right away, that this is now the hot issue right now for us. And so it would take, just as like they're doing their grandstands of attacking those funds and saying, they want to cut them and so forth and so on, it would have to be something that we as a community would have to come as a grandstands to say, no, our loved ones, our families need this funding. So yes, if we could, as a council, come together and figure out how we do that. I'd love to hear the input of other members of the council or even of the public,
Mhm.
would be a part of that work that we would definitely need to do to see that come to fruition.
Oh, sorry. Did I go out of sight? I can
Mhm.
I can go next after Kath. I saw Catherine had her hand up.
I think,
I didn't see it. I'm sorry, Kevin.
again, there are 2 things we can do immediately, which is look at those people within the DC government and also within Congress and maybe even within the administration, although I don't think that's going to be terribly organized, that we can rely on, or that we can target. I mean, I've been, I participated in 3 lobbying campaigns, 2 of which were pretty successful. One of them was to get US aid for Vietnamese who had been harmed by Agent Orange, because at the time, our policy was that American veterans were harmed by Agent Orange, but no Vietnamese, whoever had Agent Orange sprayed on them, had any medical impact. But you find the people who are sympathetic to you, and you build a network, because we're going to have people who are going to defend this, that go way beyond us and way beyond the DC government. And the second is to start compiling these facts and these statistics and these examples and things like that. Yes, Rhonda, if they're out of residential, they'll come home to us, but not everybody has a family that's going to take them back, and so we need to arm ourselves. We need to keep building these arguments and building our team that goes outside of us and goes into the DC government, but also into Congress and the executive branch. I think if they eviscerate the Department of Education, we've lost an ally right there. And I have a lot of friends whose kids are in school, and they're terrified about what's going to happen, to special education. So, we need to get our teams together. We need to get our arguments together, and not just be reactive.
Yeah, so echoing that, right, as a mother of school age children, it is a very critical time. But I think it is true for all populations that like, I think, as you mentioned, the social safety nets. I mean, you said USAID. I don't know if you're involved in, the 90% cuts to USAID right now, but I mean, there are no limits to what's happening. And so to that, I think beyond, it's something that this body, I know we struggle with in terms of being impactful at a level where everyday people understand how what we're doing here deeply impacts all disability communities. I do feel that because we're nestled in DDS, there is a way that we isolate the children and youth space. So, and that's where I work. That's what I'm navigating. I stay here because inevitably, we're coming down the pike, and this is a critical space that I wish more people would connect the dots of that, and what can we do? I think we do have to be ready, prepare information. I think we talked about this some time ago. Do we have a resource? Is that something we can do, is create, positive information sharing? I think people don't really know what's happening. People are kind of really overwhelmed with the economic conditions. And so I don't even know how to ask people to do organizing, knowing that the unemployment rates are, going higher in DC because so many people are federally employed, that the rising cost of everything is impacting folks, and for our families, we disproportionately pay. And I cannot see a way forward without having some eye on mutual aid. What do we give the community to even have a place to get that community respect as who they should trust for information? But to even do that, we have to have our information centralized. I think there was so much knowledge shared just in this meeting. If we can somehow divide our labor and document these things and create things that we can distribute, that's a start. But we do really need to start thinking very practically about how people can be cared for no matter what. I'm not confident. I mean, we have no power in Congress, so whatever goes on in Senate has nothing to do with us, and they're going to make these decisions around DC. So no matter what, I think we also have to be prepared to create our own community networks, because we don't rely on each other. We don't protect each other. And I think we may be a place where people can come for information, but we also start planning like mutual aid and being able to develop our own care networks. Like, these are things that will have to happen under the climate that we're in. And I think that's part of why these decisions is how we get here in the first place, right? We know that government has not been perfect, has not worked even with fidelity. So people have been vulnerable for a very long time, and they're going to be extra more vulnerable. What can we do to create a safe place where people start to relate to each other in ways that protect each other? To me, that I don't see any other progressive action we can take than focusing on those things, and then having factual information centralized somewhere and become resources where real news can be disseminated, because there's a lot of fake news going out there too. So just my thoughts. I would say that in my specific role at Advocates for Justice and Education right now, I have started a community health advisory panel, working with providers and some government actors to create a knowledge hub, and I think that should benefit whatever we decide to do together here. But this, again, it's about pediatric care. I wish something can be duplicated for our young adult population and our adult population similarly. Like, who are these trusted providers that people can go to understand and navigate and receive some of the gaps in services that we have? If I can be a resource to how I'm doing this, and we can do it together, that's another avenue that I can practically offer up. Because we keep us safe, okay? We will keep us safe.
Thank you. That was very powerful, and very we have a long way to go here, but it's that sort of approach that hopefully will be successful. We do have to rely on ourselves and our own advocacy, and we have to be strategic, which we will be. So with that, that concludes this portion of the discussion. Rhonda, I turn it back to you.
Okay, was there any other comments or questions around? I appreciate, Chioma, you offering some of the work that you're already starting to do. I do think it's definitely a value to consult on what that looks like, because it is going to take us, bringing those groups together. You're already working with children, from what I understand, or school-age children, but who is that and what is that in the adult world for our community, right? And how we find out who are those safe places or collaborators that want to be a part of this, right, in the adult world. If there's providers that we know that are willing to, come along in this journey. If there's others, so that's going to cause each one of us here, whether council member or not, and public at large, of who are those, identifying those places in the adult world that we think we could, rely on to be a part of the Family Support Council to push these efforts forward. I know, as Zeb is, I think we've all been saying this before we even got to where we are today, you know what I'm saying, about even coming together to bring the community in to really push for things that our community needs. But it is going to take strategic, consistent push of a whole group, right? And when I say whole group, I'm not just saying Family Support, I'm talking about a whole group of organizations, programs, people with disabilities, their families. It is going to have to be a true, concerted, and consistent, intentional effort that will cause impact. As Zeb has, shared what they've done in Maryland, of how they've done what they've, and Chioma, what she's already started doing here in the district. So time is of essence. If the Family Support Council is going to take this on, it's not going to be that we're only meeting monthly. This is something that's a bigger animal, to be real honest, that is going to take all of us to take one bite at a time at this big elephant, and all of us chipping at it. So I guess based on what I'm hearing everyone saying, or what's been said, I should say, and thank you all for your input and insight in what we're going through, is there the commitment, council members and anyone else outside of that we are making those efforts intentional outside of just this monthly meeting, because we know right now things are turning daily, hourly. Could be AM, there's one decision made, come by the end of the day, it's a whole nother situation. So it's not something that we can wait on. Take it, leave it, but that's the truth of the matter, everyone. It's what it is.
Rhonda?
Yes, Taiki.
Yes, I have another announcement. On March the 8th, they're having a decision making at 10 o'clock. So if you want to work on decision making and thinking, just go on Eventbrite.
I'm sorry, who is that? Who are you referring to that's offering the decision making? What are you referring?
It's on Eventbrite.
Okay, it's just a
Having
class.
a master thinking class.
Oh, okay, master's thinking class about decision making. Okay, all right.
March the 8th.
Okay, the 8th. And do you know who is holding this particular?
Eventbrite.
Okay, all right. So there's a decision making opportunity that Tyke is letting us know about that I guess you've seen through Eventbrite. I'm not sure who is the actual
Sponsor.
If you go on decision making, it'll pop up.
All right. Thank you, Tyke.
Do you want me to just text you the information?
Sure. Sure. I will.
Okay. All right.
And thank you, Chioma, for agreeing to duplicate in the adult space for sure. So I do hear Chioma indicating that her support of that. I'm sure the executive committee, Craig, myself, will be involved to support in this. I do need to hear from others because it will entail us working together more intentionally before next meetings and anything like that. I mean, as for our monthly Family Support Council meetings. So anyone else that is agreeing to participate in this fashion? Catherine, all right, thank you so much.
Me too, Daisy.
Hey, Daisy. All right,
Yeah,
so
contact information in the chat, so that should be.
thank you so much. So we would then need to come together in the next week or so because there's if we're moving forward in the collaboration of getting organizations, agencies, and who are trying to figure out who those people are and getting contacted with them. I am going to ask those other council members that if you will not be agreeing to participate directly in those meetings, then we are going to be asking you to be supplying information and figuring out where you are going to place yourself in this journey as council members for sure. Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, I got Catherine's information and I heard Daisy participate, Chioma, and myself. Oliver was on here for a minute. All right. I will be in contact with you all. All right, thank you.
Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.